Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. As you can see from the title of this video, I made a boo-boo. This is my original CSL DD from Fanatec. Bought it as part of the second group from the initial offering when Fanatec first put these out. And it's been running great ever since, right? So fast forward 2-3 years now, and I wanted to upgrade from the standard QR1 connections for the wheels and the shaft to the QR2, right? So I bought all the stuff at the QR2 base and went to go put it in, and here I'm going to put up the video I was making at the time to show you exactly what happened. All right, so now we got our new connector. Let me take this little protective cover off. I'll put that on the one I just pulled out. Okay, just going to put it in with the Fanatec logo facing up. It's got these edges, right? These little edges on it that fit in here, so it's only going to go in a certain way. And as long as I can get that lined up, it's kind of a tight fit, but that's good, snug. Let's see here. Collar. Push it all the way in. So I got some space there, so I gotta. Man, that was. I mean, I guess it's supposed to be that way, but I don't want to dork up the connector at all. So let's. Ah, there it goes. Woo. That took a little more oomph than I was comfortable with. Ultimately, what happened was the connector that this plugs into inside the shaft here, inside the base, broke. I thought I had it around here somewhere, but I guess I don't. But it's, oh, here it is. So this is the piece that broke. And of course, Fanatec's RMA process is not fast or anything like that. So what I ended up doing was looking for somebody who had a broken CSL DD, or in this case, GT Pro DD, which is what I have here. This was the broken one that I purchased. My thinking was that the internal pieces that I broke the connector off of inside of this one would just work just fine over here. And as it turns out, it did. But in the process of doing that, of course, I had to take all of this apart to get to that piece. And then I had to take all of this apart to get to the replacement piece and put it in here. And like I said, it all worked just fine. So while I was doing that, I thought, well, hey, why not show people how these come apart? What are the differences between the two? What's the same? Right, so hopefully that helps you here, and that's what I'm going to do in this video. So stick around. Okay, so I've got my both of my Fanatec wheelbases here, and it takes a 5mm for the CSL DD to get the back cover off, and it takes a 4mm Allen key to get the back cover off of the GT Pro. So I'm going to first start with this one, right? Because initially this is the one that had the broken board. And I've already taken the shaft off, of course, and the collar has already been loose. So I'm just going to kind of pull that off to the side. And we're just going to take this back cover off real quick. Okay, so that's all 4 screws. Now, I've had this off plenty of times already. I am not concerned about warranty or anything at this point. But just be aware that by taking any of this apart, you are probably going to avoid the warranty of any kind with Fanatec. So there's your warning. Right. So I'm just going to set this off to the side. And then you can see the backside. Now there's been other videos out there with kind of showing this stuff. So I'm just going to show it pretty much the same. You got your power connection here. This is just the wiring that comes to the front button. This is the cable that connects through to the USB-C connector that is inside the shaft, right? So it's this part inside the shaft that I need to get to, because that's where that connector broke off. All right, so what I'm going to do though is just disconnect these cables from their sockets. Pretty straightforward, just a slight little tug. You don't have to get crazy with it. And then there are 5 Torx screws on the back all around this board, but then there are 2 inside on the back side of these 2 holes that and I'm going to try not to drop it this time, connect to or are holding. There's a secondary board inside here that has 2 screws in it that have to come off. They're all the same size, so it's not a huge deal. And I want to say, let's see, T8, Torx 8 is the size that I'm using here today. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and unscrew these 8 screws. And on this last one, I just wanted to point out, it's helpful to have magnetized Torx head there, just to get these screws out, especially the ones that are sitting below this main board. Okay. Now there are 3 power connections, right? Big spade slot type connections right there. So I just got to ease those off of their connections and off of the stands for the screws, and then carefully feed the connector through the hole. And then here is the main board, I would guess, from inside the back of the Fanatec CSL DD base. Let me actually get these off to the side here. Right, and then this is what it looks like with that board removed. And now there are there's 3 tabs around this center. You have to release all 3 of those in order to pull out this center section, right? But before you do so, inside the shaft, there are 2 Phillips head screws on either side of that USB connector. Right, now I've taken these off already, so I don't have to do so, but it's just a small Phillips head screw that's holding this piece to that shaft, the carbon fiber shaft, right? Carbon fiber infused shaft. And then for me, what I usually do is I get a small pair of needle nose. I'm just going to grab one of these little tabs here while I release the 3 that are holding it in. So I got 3 fingers, and then you should be able to just give it a little tug. It shouldn't take much. Once you have the 3 tabs released, there we go, nice and easy. Okay, so I'm going to put that to the side, and then you can see that's all there is. There's nothing in there. It's just the shaft itself. I'm going to set this off to the side now because we don't need to mess with anything there. And then this is the part that comes out, and this is what connects to that main board, right? This connector here. Okay, and here's this PC board, right? And here is where that USB-C connector is supposed to go. The one that I was showing you earlier is supposed to sit right there. And then what happens is you have your QR shaft, and it comes in and mates with that, right? And then all the information from your wheel through all of these pins is transferred through the USB-C connection into the motherboard, or this PC board, I should say, and then through this connection into the main board, right? So it's my assumption, without breaking one of these apart, that this is essentially just a pass-through, right? There's really no mechanisms or no boards or no software inside here. but there's a website called simracingmachines.com that provides a replacement for this. So for instance, if any of your pins inside here get broken, or I suppose if somehow this gets messed up or something to that effect, they sell a replacement for this. And when you look at the website, and I'll put a link down in the description below for them, it's this plastic piece with some wiring that goes to a small board for this connection, or there's a plug, a white connection that goes to this USB-C connector. So there's no logic, there's no brains inside this thing. It's just wiring to get your information and data from your wheel that plugs into this side into the base through this board. And and there's some circuitry on this board, of course, but then from this board through this cable to the main board, which is really where all the magic happens, so to speak. Okay, so really nothing to worry about here. If this breaks or you have to get another one, I mean, these are fairly inexpensive, I suppose. I think I paid 36 bucks for one of these. So anyway, so I don't need any of that. What I do need is a replacement one of these boards, right? And there's just 2 Phillips head screws that remove it from this board, okay, or from this housing, okay? One thing else I'll point out here is on the back side, there's this little, hopefully you'll be able to see it, but there's a little tab here, okay? In this tab, when you put it back in, and you'll see on the base itself, there's a little slot here where that would have to line up, right, and go into for this to seat properly. And you'll see that here in a moment, because the next step is to remove these same pieces from this GT Pro DD wheel, right? So I'm going to take the collar off. Don't need, that was already loose. Make myself some room. So here is your GT Pro DD, and right off the bat you can see just from looking at the back side and the case, okay, the layout of the connectors is just a little bit different, right? In here on the original CSL DD, you've got your power connector right up here in the middle. Got this data connection that nobody knows what it's for, the mysterious data connection. And then of course the USB connection next to it, and then underneath are all of your RJ11 type connections for shifter 1, shifter 2, pedal, and handbrake. On the Pro, however, those are all connections are still there, except for the mysterious data connection that was on the original CSL. And so all you have is your USB power, and of course 4 connections for your peripherals that run through this, okay? So what I'm going to do now is take the back side off of the Pro. And like I said before, this takes a 4mm as opposed to the 5mm that was used for the CSL DD. So, all right. So backside again, very different from the OG. Okay, placement of the connectors and such. But for the most part, the rest of the disassembly is the same, right? You've got, was it 5, 6, 7 screws, T8, Torx 8 screws to remove this back motherboard. Same 2 connections, one for the power, one for the connection to the shaft and the wheel, and of course the 3 blade type power connections that run across the top side of this. So nothing really new there. So I'm just going to go ahead and get those removed just to kind of make the video a little bit short. And then we'll show the differences between this motherboard in the Pro and the motherboard that came out of the CSL DD. So we'll be right back. All right, so I've got the motherboard removed from the GT Pro. And we'll just take a quick look here between the two. This side looks pretty much the same right? Maybe the placement of a few components a little bit different. But if you flip this around, you can see, of course, the placement of the connectors is really the biggest difference here. But pretty much everything else is the same, right? You can see this, the connection here for that centerpiece is just off to the side a little bit, things like that, but not really too much of a problem there, too much of a difference, okay? So I'm going to put this one back over here. I'm going to set this one off to the side here. And of course, this is the piece we need to get to, right? This center section. And on this one, I have not removed the two Phillips head screws that are inside holding it to the center shaft here. So I'm going to do that right now. There we go. Okay, so screws are out. So now I've just got to get these 3 tabs compressed, get my small needle nose here. Just give it a little tug. It should come out very easy. Once the 3 tabs are compressed enough, then it just kind of slides out very simply, okay? And again, so inside here, everything's pretty much the same as you saw in this one. There's really not a whole lot of difference, just the outer shell is a little different, okay? But here it is, right? Here's what one of these is supposed to look like. Here's what my broken one looks like. Pretty much the same, except you know, the connector's missing off of my original one. So this one is the one that I want to put inside my CSL DD and get it back working again, right? And to be totally honest, I've done that already. I've tested it, works just fine. The GT Pro that I received from somebody on Facebook Marketplace was having a whole lot of trouble with the drivers and getting it to work and all this kind of stuff, and just didn't feel like going through the ALRET process with fanatec. So I was able to get this fairly cheap, fairly inexpensive. My goal was to just get this, okay? But my main goal for this video was to show the differences, you know, between these two, which there really aren't many, and just kind of show you the process, right? What it takes to take one of these apart if you find yourself in that boat, okay? And as you can see, there really isn't too much difference between the two. Internally and the way they work and all that kind of stuff, right? The boards, pretty much the same. And, you know, a lot of the internals are the same. And to be honest with you, I like the layout of the Pro a lot better. Right, the way these connections for the USB and for the power are sitting here, and then the 4 for the peripherals that get connected. I kind of like it a lot better. But that's all I got for the internals, right? The teardown of your CSL DD and your GT Pro DD from Fanatec. Very similar construction, a lot of the same steps, and some of the parts are interchangeable, right? So if you have any questions, please feel free to put something down in the comments below. I'll put some contact information. If you have any questions, reach out and email me if you'd rather do it that way. But aside from that, if you enjoyed what you saw today, if this helped you in any way, please consider giving the video a thumbs up. And if you see any of my other content and find that helpful as well, please consider subscribing, because that certainly helps the channel, gets this information that I love doing out to more people on the internet. So until the next video, please enjoy your sim racing and live well, laugh often, and love always. Take care.